Okay, guys, the Raptors have used some of the money they had left over under the luxury tax threshold after the Poeltl trade to go and get a potential chemistry mate with shooting skills and some wingspan. Let's have a listen.
I felt like I made a good impression during my 10 days and felt like if there was a roster spot available after the trade deadline that it was a possibility that I could come back. So just thankful it all worked out that way and I'm able to be here.
What had you feeling good about the impression?
I mean, I felt like I made the most of my opportunities. Obviously, I didn't play too much, but when I was out there, I did my thing. I did what I could do every day in practice. Went and played with the 905, played well there, and I feel like just bringing energy on the bench too. Like those things don't go unnoticed, and so I just tried to do everything I could during my 10 days, and clearly it paid off. I feel like just being known as a white shooter, people don't view you as a good defender, but I feel like I am a little bit more athletic than people think. I have a long wingspan. Obviously, they preach Eagles and having wide arms on defense. So I feel like just bringing energy, using my length, using the athleticism I have, just to maintain and stay in front of people.
Okay, so we have this year's Armoni Brooks. So they've been hunting for this for a while, and they're going to go with another Popovich player in the form of Joe Wieskamp, who we've had the pleasure of seeing at the 905. I've seen him for one home game. That's all I've seen him for. And it was impressive. He was really good. It's neat to see Joe mention the Eagles. That's the Trevor Gleason thing from, you'll remember from Open Gym. You might even remember my stoned ass running around my driveway demonstrating that with my dog in one of my videos. It's actually one of the things that when we're watching games, me and my kids will yell out at the court when we see players not having their Eagles out and covering the passing lanes on defense. And when you yell it, they actually do it. Like they know they should have their Eagles out at all times at the 905, not just at the Raptors level. His use your wingspan on this team. It should be really interesting to see if Joe is the piece they've been looking for. I wanted to take a look at the contract, and I wanted to take a look at least what we know about it and see how we were able to sign him. And I want to take a look at the moves that set up going for Joe here. So for those of you that were watching a video of mine when Poeltl came over, I mentioned this number. It's 1.737633 million, and that's what I calculated to be left over once we brought Poeltl in for Chem, which was significant because we knew we had one roster position open, and we also knew we've been hunting for this type of player for a few years now on a cheap salary. So the Raptors are going to take a chance on Joe Wieskamp. The closest I can find to update you on the contract is from Sportrack. They calculate that now that Joe's here, because you can see they have him on here for 545, almost 546,000. They calculate the position below the luxury tax, which is genius by the Raptors, as 1.125 million with 603,000 and change, or $603 and change. All right. So we now have our roster full, and I want to take you down kind of the history of how we arrived at this player. I'm going to start you with Sam Dekker, and then we ended up having a time frame on Dekker to make a contract decision for him and ultimately did not extend it. I expect to see the same things on Joe's contract when this is updated. There's going to be intervals, because it's a multi-year contract, but there's going to be intervals where they don't have to guarantee the next set of dollars. So expect that on Joe's contract. From Dekker, we went with Armoni Brooks. So Armoni came in, did his thing. He went all the way through Summer League and training camp this year and was cut at a time when they just simply did not extend the next portion of his guaranteed money. So they did it in chunks. Like if they guaranteed a chunk, then he's good for that long. He makes that much money regardless of how they use him. So a player that kind of comes into this whole thing and plays a role in this development of looking for this player is actually Justin Champagnie. So the reason I say that is Justin was taking on a role for the Raptors at the 905 this year while they tested out two important players that determined his fate. So Justin had a deadline for his guaranteed money this year just before he was released. And it was pending, I think, from watching the team this year, Juancho and Malachi. And Justin took on an important role. You remember this from Open Gym.
I'm real excited to be in Toronto. I've heard a lot of great things, and I'm excited to go forward.
These guys gave me all the energy, and it was just my teammates the whole time. I couldn't have done it without them. talking about that support. I mean, all you guys. Oh, go ahead.
I don't mean to crash this interview, but I want to let the world know that these two are my sons.
Never my son. Never.
Ultimately, Justin was asked to be a mentor at the 905 while the team took a look at other players. And ultimately, he embraced that role. Like, at the beginning of the season, Justin didn't really play at the 905. He was there to mentor. You could see him cheerleading on the bench. You could see him before and after games, really talking to the players, helping them get acclimatized to the franchise and what the team required. He was a mentor at the 905 this year. And I think his job, his future with the Raptors really hinged on Juancho. So I think they must like something about Juancho, and Malachi, who has, I think, given them the impression that he can be at least a bench reserve next man up for Fred and Gary to do certain things that they can do. And this process was expedited early this year because Juancho and Malachi both got looks really early because of injuries. Justin is now with Miami as far as I understand it. Okay, and then that ultimately brings us to Wieskamp. So the positives, as I said, if you saw him in Summer League, you know what he can do. Go back, watch some Summer League footage if you want. Comes from the Popovich line, and he's a role-playing guy who will accept his role. And I expect to look forward to more 905 games with Joe in the lineup. The 905 is positioned to really make a push for the playoffs, and we hope to see them there. Something to watch for, Wieskamp Poeltl chemistry. One last point, be watching in the next few games for some potential play out of the post to a shooter in the form of Wieskamp, because these two have been practicing for the last 2 years together. So Wieskamp might have some familiarity and unlock some keys to how to use Poeltl out of the post, because we've been doing dribble drives with most of our guys, and bringing a talent like Poeltl back into the paint for his minutes, it's important for us to open up shooters, and that's something we haven't practiced doing in a while. So look for some chemistry here in the next few games. All the best to Justin Champagnie. I don't feel like I wasn't making videos to give him a send-off. I never embarrassed myself enough to shout across the court at Justin. I regret not doing so before he left. Thank you for taking such good care of our sons.
These two are my sons.
So all the best to Justin Champagnie, and welcome to Toronto a little more permanently. Look forward to seeing him at the 905 hopefully, and in the playoffs this year. Joe Wieskamp.